I'm joined now by DJ Eclipse, photographer and owner of Blacklight Media. DJ Eclipse, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited to dig into especially all of your recent success, but let's start at the very beginning. When did you decide that you had an artistic eye? When was that something that interested you?
I don't know. I knew kind of early I wanted to do music. And then I started off in music with DJing and production, and then it kind of progressed to a point of where I just started exploring different stuff like video. And then I started working at Sunny Chic camera shop with
Oh, I miss Sunny
yeah.
Chic.
And so I was working with Bill.
Yeah.
And so as I was working there, you know, we started talking about photography. I started looking through photography books, and I was like, you know what, this is something that I would really like to take more serious.
Yeah.
And so every day after work, I would just go out and shoot. And I would come to work and he'd critique my work and he'd tear it apart. And then I'd go back out and shoot. And I just kept coming back and forth. And then finally, when the shop kind of closed, you know, he told me, you know, maybe you should look to pursue this a little further because you really caught on to it really fast. And so I looked to, Bill's been a big inspiration in helping me do that.
That's amazing. So when you first started shooting, were you using digital right off the bat?
Yes, but I understood film just because a lot of the guys that work there have been seasoned photographers like 40 years and up. And so, you know, just understanding film and the whole process. And the thing that he taught me was to really get to a point where you're using full manual, not to rely on just presets or putting it in auto and stuff like that. Because if you're able to control what you shoot, then it helps, then helping you just kind of get lucky.
So you said that Bill acknowledged that you were a quick study. How fast did you really pick it up?
Like a year.
Wow.
And then I think it was because like every day I went out and shot. And that's the advice I give to people is that if you really want to understand photography, the best thing to do is just to go out and shoot. I mean, you can watch YouTube tutorials, you can read books, you can do all this stuff, but to really understand it and really get a hold of it, it's best to just go out and just do it.
Did you find that really, like from the get-go, you had your own aesthetic, or were you kind of relying on some of the influence and inspiration from the books that you were looking at?
Actually, no. When I first started shooting, I was just shooting. And then one of the things that he gave me critique on and others that gave me critique on, they were like, you know, you need to kind of find your voice. You know, like there's a difference between shooting images and then shooting what means something to you. And I really didn't know. And then I got into shooting concert photography, which because with a music background, you know, concerts intrigued me just because of the emotion in it. And then the more I started to shoot, the more I started to discover that emotion was the big thing in my photography. And when I started to pursue that, it all started to kind of come together.
That really leads me seamlessly into a lot of the work that you did for the Black Lives Matter protests. I mentioned your recent huge success. What is it like to open up Time magazine and see your photo in the centerfold?
It was surreal. I mean, because when I went to shoot the protest, I didn't go with the intention of any of it. I went just because I wanted to tell the story of the protests from a Black perspective, you know, because sometimes that narrative kind of gets skewed. And so I wanted to just kind of have my point of view, not that my point of view meant more than anyone else's, but just to have it. And when I got there and I really just started to see things unfold, like I just started shooting. And then I would go home and just kind of flip through them, and I just started uploading them. And then Time Magazine messaged me on my Instagram, and they were like, "Hey, this is Time Magazine. We want to use one of your photos." And I was just like, "Yeah, right." You know, like,
I was gonna say, did you say no?
No,
way?
like I looked at it almost like it was spam. I was just like, you know, because sometimes people hit you from these like phantom accounts. You don't know if it's real, and so I kind of looked at it and was like, "Nah."
Yeah.
And then they hit my Twitter, and then they hit my email, and they were like, "Okay, just give us your phone number." And so they called me and they go, "Okay, this is for real. This is really Time Magazine." I was just like, "Oh, it is real." So I didn't really get a full time to process it because people would ask me like, "Did you submit to anybody?" I didn't do anything. I just
Yeah.
went out and shot. And then after that, New York Magazine reached out. And then after that, it was just, it was just became a bombardment of just all these opportunities that I had never saw coming. So it was like I wasn't mentally prepared for it. I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't going, well, yeah, I totally earned this. Like, no, I didn't. Like,
Right.
so it's even still like now just, the opportunities have been presented to me. It's just been amazing because it's not anything that I actively sought out.
Right.
I guess I look at it from a point of just being grateful, and because one of the big influences of my photography was really studying Gordon Parks. And Gordon Parks helped me kind of embrace what I needed to do because, here's a man who didn't go to school for fine art. He didn't have a photography degree. He didn't do anything. He literally walked into a thrift store and bought his first camera for $7.50. And from that to evolve to what he did and to follow his voice was what kind of gave me comfort that, okay, because in the beginning, when you first start shooting and you look at other people's work and you go, okay, this totally isn't for me, or I don't fit, or maybe I need to go to school, or maybe I need to take a seminar. And when I started to discover his work, I'm like, okay, so then basically I just need to shoot, and his, prior to the protest, I really went through his works on race, and he did a whole photo series on like race in America and stuff like that. So studying that work and then going to the protest, it made it more real because then it was from a perspective of shooting that most of these people will never be interviewed. Most of these people will never be in a newspaper. They'll never be in a magazine, and their voice will be forgotten after this protest is over. So if my images can help their voices go farther and speak longer and last longer, then that was the job.
How do you go about capturing vulnerability like you do? I was looking through so many of your images and I just that was the word that kept coming up. Like I can see the vulnerability in these people, in these situations. It's palpable, and I don't know how you capture that.
For me, it was funny because when I talked to Time Magazine, they said the one thing that made your images stand out is you could tell that you didn't shoot them from far away. Like you were really, really close. And I think that's part of it is you have to, one, understand that these are people. Two, you have to understand that these people have feelings and that whatever they're here for, they're obviously passionate about it. So it's waiting for that moment where that passion comes out and then to capture it, which is a split-second decision, but it's just that once you kind of get into it and you understand why you're doing it, it becomes easier to do because now you're not just looking for this, I'm not looking for the cool shot. I'm not looking for the one that's going to make a poster. It's like, if I see someone that's really passionately protesting about something, if I see somebody that's kind of just, really contemplate what's going on. And it's standing and watching. And a lot of it too is talking to people. I think a lot of photographers make the mistake of trying to shoot people without getting to know people. So it's not just going to a protest or going to a concert or something, or just going out and street photography and just taking their photo. It's like, okay, who are you? Why are you here? How long have you been here? What brought you here? And asking those questions, and then you kind of create that relationship. So now you're not just shooting some random person, you're shooting what's going on.
What does it feel like to have been such a beautiful part of history? I mean, it's so weird to be alive right now anyway, with everything that's going on, but to know that you weren't just there, but you really captured a moment in history.
I mean, I keep the 4 rubber bullets I got shot with in my car. Like that's how real, like it wasn't like I was just there taking photos. I was there taking photos and participating in protests at the same time, and I got tear gassed just like everyone else. I got shot at like everybody else. I just wasn't taking, and I guess that's that word gets misconstrued too, of just taking photos. Like you don't really want to take a photo. Like I want to capture something.
Right.
and not even really capture it, but just to, if you can freeze time, I guess that's more of a better word to use than capturing or taking, because it just sounds like it's almost like theft. Like, oh, you're here, give me that.
Right?
Like,
Yeah.
So if I can use all of these opportunities to make someone else's life better, or inspire someone else, or maybe get someone to look at their point of view a little bit differently, then it's all worth it. But instead of just going, well, yeah, this is really cool, I did this, I did that. Like, no, I really didn't. I just happened to be there.
Do you find that that's how you walk through life now? Just wherever you are, wherever you happen to be, you're sort of seeing the world in images, in frozen moments?
I mean, one thing about photography is that it teaches you to appreciate. Like, you could literally take the same route to work every day for 5 years, and then take that same journey to work with a camera in your hand, and you notice stuff that you previously didn't even bother to consider looking at. So now sidewalks look different, trees look different, people look different. That one weird crack in the ground looks different, like everything. So it just really makes you appreciate. It makes you, look at things from a different perspective. And then even though you may have seen the same thing more than once, every time you look at it, you notice something different. And so I feel like that's what, photography has done. I feel like that's what, the protests have done, to be able to have conversations with people I normally wouldn't be able to have conversations with. Like, it's all a blessing, honestly.
You are going to have so much continued success. DJ Eclipse, thank you for taking the time to sit down with me. You, like I said, you're fascinating, your work is beautiful, and I wish you all the success in the world.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This studio is beautiful.
Arts in Focus on PBS Fort Wayne is funded in part by the Our Foundation and the Community Foundation of Greater Fort Wayne.